Hello and welcome and happy new year. It's been a little minute, almost nearly a year, but a lot's been happening, I'm sure in your lives as well. The last time I was here was when I did my Unkin training video, I believe, of which one part of it was me going over the books I read last year and then over the books that I wanted to read this year. And this video, if the title says so, is me kind of going through the books that I read this year and what those books meant to me, essentially. The reason why you didn't really see much of me this year is because last year, or maybe 2 years ago, when I was making all those videos about the books that I was reading, they were a lot of fantasy books that I consider to be my bread and butter, and I just kind of wanted to take people along the journey with me, maybe encourage them to read some of the fantasy that I'm reading so I could talk with other people about them, just some chill shit. But last year I became a lot more focused on nonfiction literature and what it offered me as far as my ability to navigate this absolutely insane world. And so I'm going to be going over some of the reads that I had this year, some recommendations, some but enough preamble, because these videos go pretty long anyway and attention spans are short. So the first book I read this year was Black on Both Sides by I believe Riley Snorton. And in my Unkin training video, I actually filmed that in January, so I did cover this book because I had read it by then. Now a year later, I would say I still love it just as much as I did back then. And I think that the lessons that it teaches and it offers are just as, if not more important, to be aware of right now. The book talks a lot about black and trans erasure, and we're living in the heart of an administration that is very determined to erase black and trans stories individually and together. And so this is a really good book if you are trying to understand all the different interests that go into anti-trans sentiments in media, and how, especially if you're a black person, how it connects to a lot of other parts of your identity. So Black on Both Sides, also a reference to a Mos Def album. I don't know if she meant to do that, but I take it that way, and so you get extra cool points for me. Pretty heavy book, and so the next book that I read was The Phantom Tollbooth. As you can see, I'm showing you just the front page because I got a free copy, and so it was already kind of tore up. But I got this book at a time when I was thinking about writing a review for Tyler the Creator's album Chromacopia, because the title and certain songs and references throughout the album make reference to this book, specifically a chapter or two chapters within it. Saint Chroma is from this book, but I ended up not writing that because life got in the way. But I think that this is a absolutely beautiful book. Even being a grown adult, it's a middle grade book. If you are searching to reconnect with the whimsy and the natural joy of words and wordplay, it's just a love letter to literature, really, is what this book is. And I recommend it to anyone who is trying to get back into reading, because it's a really quick read. It's a very fun, whimsical read, and it's also something that will leave you with a warm feeling in your chest when you're done. After that, I went YA on them. This was a book that came out last year called Immortal Dark. It's a young adult fantasy novel. It is a vampire novel, but more specifically, they are Ethiopian vampires. a very interesting approach to it, because there's also like some psychic powers and stuff. There's a lot going on in this book, and I thought it was a very interesting plot, and certain concepts within it really drew me in. There is a house that is essentially a mirror of the main character's mind, and so as she deals with her personal traumas and stuff, you can see the house actually physically morph to match it. So it's a really good book as in a lot of different areas, but for me it did have a lot of the YA stains on it, weird sexual descriptions at times, cringe moments, sometimes the plot got a bit meandering, and sometimes the main character was a little too unfocused and scatterbrained for me. But if you're just looking for a nice, fun new vampire novel, I would definitely recommend it. It's not below the genre. I would say it's just a YA version of the vampire genre. It's probably on par with other YA and lower than adult vampire novels, in my opinion. And so after all that fun, of course, I had to get back to the business, and I read Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. I'm actually currently reading the Assata Shakur autobiography, which opens up with a foreword by Angela Davis. And at this point of my reading journey, one of the joys that I get out of reading is seeing all the different authors and pieces I read connect and have conversation with each other. So I just thought that was a very cool thing. But this was a really, really great book for showing the intersectionality between struggles. Specifically the genocide in Gaza, or Palestine, and the history of Israel's involvement in Palestine, and how it relates to the over-policing in America. It's centered around the Ferguson riots over the killing of Mike Brown in 2015, I believe that was. And it's structured as a series of speeches that she gave. So there's like 5 different speeches. Towards the end, it gets a bit repetitive because it's literally pulled from certain speeches that she did, and she goes over some of the same points. But I think it helps drive those points home, and it really shows the intersectionality of struggle, and how our immigration policies, our foreign policies, and our domestic policy are all interconnected, and why all struggles are connected when you really think about what is being fought for. So really, really high recommendation from me. This next book is maybe the best crafted fiction book that I read this year. It's and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but it's Nnedi Okorafor's Death of the Author. It is an absolutely incredible half literary fiction, half sci-fi novel. In fact, let me take off, this is the first cover, but if I take off the dust jacket, it has this cover and Rusted Robots. The main character of this novel is writing a fantasy novel called Rusted Robots, and this is kind of a book within a book, because you are reading about the main character's life over the course of her coming up with the idea for this book, and then following through, and then what her life means after her book blows up. And then it's also talking about the book itself, the narrative within the book, where it is centuries after humanity has created robots and destroyed themselves, and now robots are basically walking through the remnants of humanity and facing their own apocalypse at this point. And they also can't create stories, they can only ingest them. It's a great conversation about creativity, about creation, about the responsibility between creator and creation, and the connection there. It's about so much. It's about environmentalism. It's about the necessity for evolution and change, but making sure that the vision stays clear and you don't lose yourself in that evolution. It's a really, really great book. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, but it's definitely in the contenders there for this year. Absolutely incredible book. And I am now a Nnedi Okorafor fan, so I'll be reading more in the future. I don't know if you can see, but I have all the books stacked in order that I read them in preparation for this. I tried to do this last night, and then I got tired and fell asleep. But after that, I read Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. This was on my reading list because I really, really wanted to start reading more first-hand narratives, back to the point of Black and, well, it doesn't pertain to this, but when I was talking about this Riley Snorton books about how the erasure of trans and Black stories has been a big marker throughout the history of the world, but also specifically America. And this one I wanted to read because it was a direct narrative pulled from a African American who went through the slave trade and told to an African American with respect for the culture and for Black people and our experiences. So I just wanted to get some firsthand absorption of what that experience was like and how he moved on, if he did, with his life. I think it's a really good book if you are trying to get a sense of how a person experiences something like slavery and then how they move into other aspects of their life and what parts of them that carries over. I wouldn't look for it as like a philosopher, you know, but the main subject of this narrative, Cujo, who was a real person. I'm just saying narrative because it's his story, but he wasn't the one that wrote it. Zora was. But Cujo is relaying his experience of life. He's not really giving you like a philosophical look or deep dive or analysis on it. That's kind of left to the reader to do. So if you're looking for like an analysis of his experience, that's not what this book is for. It is quite literally just to get his story. But good book. After that, I kind of went into a reading slump in the sense that I wasn't trying to read a lot of long narratives. So I read P. Djeli Clark's The Black God's Drums. If you have heard me speak over the years, I absolutely love P. Djeli Clark, and he absolutely needs to write way quicker because we need the next Master in the Djinn series, and all he seems to do is write freaking novellas. Good novellas, because I love Ring Shout, which I covered in the past, and I really love this short story as well, but they're just way too damn short. It's a story essentially about Haitian sky pirates, an orphan that gets wrapped up in some big money conspiracy in Louisiana in like between like the 1920s and the 50s. I don't really remember. I think it was like the 1930s. Let's just say 1930s. I'm probably wrong. But it's a really, really great book, really fun book, novella. But if you're just looking for a really quick story, high octane, with like an Afrocentric magic system, tied to Orisha gods like Shango and stuff, recommendation. But yes, he needs to write way more. After that, continuing on my short books, I read James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. I think in my Unkin Training book, maybe video, I mentioned this book about how I wanted to read it. I absolutely love James Baldwin. He's one of those speakers and writers that whenever I read, or at least for his nonfiction pieces, because I've not read any of his fiction pieces yet, but whenever he's talking about life, he has such a blunt and straightforward, no nonsense way of talking about the realities of the world that just cuts through the noise and just draws me in every time. And this book was the very same. It also gave me a better sense of who he was as a person. Certain stories that he tells in this live in my brain to this day, just because they're still relevant today. So yes, high recommendation. The Fire Next Time. Not really, an outlier there. I'm sure a lot of people would say the same. But yes, great book. Now this book, The Little Devil, A Little Devil in America. This book changed my brain, my year. It's maybe why you've got no videos from me in 2025 for the most part. This is a book of essays by Hanif Abdurraqib. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And it's the first complete book that I've read from him, and it absolutely blew me away. If you know anything about me, I absolutely love art. I love music. I love books, clearly, but music. I'm absolutely a music junkie. And this book is covering it goes through a number of different narratives, but it's talking about the history of black performance in America, and all the different avenues of personal, social, spiritual life that it supplemented and kept alive for black people. How important it is in our religion, how important it is economically, how important it is just for us understanding who we are as a people. So it really, really connected with me. It's prompted me into being able to write nonfiction essay form, because it finally gave me a form in which I felt like I could translate how my brain processes life events, where it doesn't necessarily follow in chronological order, but certain themes and certain elements of serendipity could create the connections and tether all these different events and ideas together. You'll understand more because of this. I was playing around with writing essays, and then after this I actually was able to come up with a concept of how I wanted to structure the essays, and I'm going to be coming out with these essays over the course of this year. I'm still figuring out the release schedule, but the project is called Bittersweet, so keep an eye out for it. But A Little Devil in America, absolutely great. And I read it before I watched Sinners this year, which was even better because it gave me another lens to look at the art and the music in that movie through. So, great book. After that, I read The Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand. Another great book. It's the subtitle is Rewilding the Sacred Masculine, and essentially for me it reconnected masculinity into the natural world, where I feel like now discussions around masculinity often have to do with very established professions or archetypes or behavior patterns in the current world. And for me, I also have a essay on this, but essentially it frames masculinity through a number of old myths, Greek, Egyptian, some are biblical tales and stuff, and it just analyzes the way that the masculine persona has been structured and restructured and contextualized and recontextualized from society to society in connection to the rest of nature. If you have a brain that enjoys the way that human stories tell how we connect with the natural world and is able to translate the metaphorical to the literal back and forth, because life is a blend of the two, then I highly recommend this book. If you're looking for like hard concrete science, that's not this book. It does have a lot of real historical detail, but it's not really built in graphs and numbers and stuff. It's built more along literary analyzation. It was one of my favorite books this year as well, or last year. This is a piece of paper, but this piece of paper signifies a book that I can no longer find for some reason. I must have lent it to someone and then forgotten it, or it's laying around somewhere. But the book is called The River Have Roots. It is by El Mohar. I don't remember her first name, unless that is her first name, but it's by the same person that wrote or co-wrote This Is How You Lose the Time War. And this was my first time reading a standalone book by her. And I would say I absolutely love it. It's another novella. It's a really quick read. If you really would like a modern day fairy tale, this is a really, really good modern day fairy tale. And it also honors that element of music that is so important in old oral storytelling when it came to myths and legends and stuff. It tells the story of these two sisters that live beside a magical forest, and their family grows up in harmony with the magical elements of the forest that's across this river. And it's essentially talking about what this connection means to the sisters. One of the sisters falls in love with this magical being on the other side, and then this human dude that is looking to own the land that they're on and gain access to it starts trying to lure that sister away with money and riches and stuff, and then some shit goes down. I won't spoil it, but it's a really, really good tale, and it's a really quick one. So if you want something with some magic and that nice fairy tale feel, but not the old, like literally opening up a Grimm's fairy tale, because if you really open up those old fairy tales, a lot of them are way more bare bones, and a lot of the cultural lessons and stuff don't really translate one-to-one to the current society, which this one does a lot more. And so I think it did a really good job. After that, I read Harlem Rhapsody. This one was a little out of my usual wheelhouse. It is a fiction book. It's about Jessie Redmond Fawcett. She wrote the novel Plum Bun, but she was also the head editor for the Crisis magazine, which was W.E.B. Du Bois's magazine back in the 1930s. If you don't notice, like I'm trying to get much better at pinning down historical dates in my brain, but that's just not how it works. And so this is my best attempt without looking through all these books and finding the exact time frame, but it was actually probably around like the 1940s and 50s. But it's going over the contributions that she made, not only to the magazine and to the Black literary movement in New York at that time, but also into discovering a lot of Black writers of the time, like Langston Hughes, Countee Cullen, and many others. And so it's an alright book. I think it does a good job balancing historical fact with personal narrative, but in that, I would have enjoyed a book that either focus more on historical fact or focus more on personal narrative. The blend of the two made it sufficient for the book, but it made it like a 3 of a book for me, because it was cool on both sides, but it wasn't extraordinary on either personally. But I also think it was a good book. It has a okay romance. I wouldn't really say it's a romance, but there are romantic moments. But yeah, it's a cool book. Obviously, it didn't impact me like a lot of the reads I had this year. But it's a decent book. The next book was pretty impactful. It was Soil by Camille Dungy. It is the first nature writing book that I've read, if not in ever, then since I was a child, because I had a bunch of like books about spiders and sharks and stuff. Since then, in my adult life, I have not read any nature writing, and this was the first time, and it was a great experience, because the reason I wrote it is because in the sense that I'm trying to get more connected with direct narratives of humans. I'm trying to do the same with the earth. I feel like most humans let me not speak for humanity. I'm not really aware of how much the things that I do on my day-to-day directly impacts the natural world around me. And I thought that was horrific when I had that kind of realization, because I'm like, this is my home. Like, I should know the things that are affecting the trees, the birds, the squirrels in my area, because those things are the ecosystem, and they directly tell me about how well the ecosystem is doing. Living in the Midwest, we have a bunch of data centers moving here for AI, which suck up a bunch of natural resources and kill a lot of environments. And so with us being in the heart of there, I think it would only begin more important to be able to read these signs. So yeah, I just want to get more connected to the natural world, and this book was a good way into that. It's a nonfiction book, but it's the main character going over the practice of building a garden here in Colorado and the real world lessons that experience showed her. And she talks about how attitudes towards the natural world a lot of times will reflect the way that we treat each other. How a lot of lawn care culture is making sure that everything looks clean and neat, rather than making sure that it's genuinely healthy and good for the environment. Yes, just there's a lot of life lessons, and it stresses the importance of being aware of the impact that you make on the world, and I think that's important. After this, I read a book called You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. This was maybe the most fun book I've read this year. I read it as a part of a book club along with the Harlem Rhapsody book. I like this one way better. It is about this young woman in like her mid-20s who is getting over the grief of losing her first love to death, and now she's kind of just going out all night trying to forget it, and then she meets some dude, and she knows, and then it gets wild. The synopsis reveals more, but honestly, I'll leave that for you to read the back cover. It is a romance book, but it is also a book about self-discovery. I would not say that I condone all the main characters' decisions when it comes to romance, But what I can say is that for me, the book was way more about self-exploration than romance. So I think that it offers more than the romance, but the romance is also good. It's spicy. It is a spicy book, let me tell you. Not like it's full of sex scenes, even though there are a couple, but it's full of drama from top to bottom, and I highly recommend it because the drama all serves a purpose, and that's the type of books I like. I like drama, but I like drama with a purpose. The next book that I read was a book called The Devil Three Times by Rick Faney. I absolutely love this book. I read it right after I watched Sinners because I was looking for more things in that vein, and this one definitely lived up to it. It is looking at the story of the book is essentially that over the course of the transatlantic slave trade, one woman is brought across, and carried across with her is the devil. The devil is given a charge by Jesus to watch over African Americans and help them escape the slave trade, while Jesus goes up to parlay on the devil's behalf to try and convince God to let him back into heaven. And so the book follows the devil as he basically follows this specific bloodline of this woman, and the reader gets to follow along with their lives and see how his influence has changed the course of their lives through transatlantic slave trade, and then the experience of being slaves, of mixing bloodlines with slave masters, and what that means for progeny, and the choice of race, of which side you stand on when you are a product of both, and what those legacies can mean for you. It's a really, really good book because it highlights the complications of the race structure and the illogics that have to be enforced in order to maintain white supremacy throughout the years. And it also has a beautiful look at African spirituality, be that through Vodou or Christianity. You can just see a lot of African elements, because when Africans took on Christianity, we also brought in a lot of Afrocentric elements. The belief of water as a bridge between worlds, or a form of transformation, a medium of transformation, these type of ideas. But it's a really, really engaging book. It's a really great book. It is also a tough book, because it is talking about the realities of slavery in many instances. So many trigger warnings, but it is a good book, and it's not a book that I felt leaned into trauma porn. I think it showed it enough as it needed to, and I think that the story it told was a very intricate and beautiful one. So 3 cheers for Rick Faney. I believe this was his debut novel, but if not, it's how he was introduced to me. Then we have The Creation of Half-Broken People. I would say The Devil Three Times and The Creation of Half-Broken People are two of the more complicated books that I read this year as far as storylines go, because they traverse through the years, and you have to kind of get the timelines correct in your own brain. I would say that The Creation of Half-Broken People was one of the most impactful books that I've read this year. It is so it's much lesser known, though. I haven't really run into anybody else that has read or even heard about it. It is an incredible book, though. It is talking about this woman who ends up becoming like this unofficial mistress to this guy named John Good, who runs a museum, but he comes from a family that has run this museum for generation. And as the book goes on, like, you get to trace his family line backwards, and you see how them owning the museum comes from them being conquistadors, from being anthropologists. And if you don't know, the origins of anthropology have roots in colonialism and justification of other races as lesser in order to justify going in and taking over shit, if that rings any bells. But it's a really good look at the development of colonialism and how violence in its original state over time can be dressed up into official institutions like museums that are built up on legacies of violence and oppression and thievery. And so it's a really, and it also does a really good job of interrogating the fickle boundaries of race. Really great book, and it does a lot in it. It is hard to keep track of all the different stories, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. After that, some more light reading. I read The 100 Years' War on Palestine. The situation with Israel and Palestine is one that I've been vaguely aware of probably about half of my life. But the way it was discussed, you would always think it was like two countries that just couldn't get along, when in reality, it is a colonial project that has been in the process for about 100 years, sponsored by Europe and now America. We're the main sponsors of this project. And the reason why Israel gets so much support is because it gives whoever's supporting them a foot to have real foreign policy control in the Middle East, where a lot of resources and power is. And so this book does a really good job of outlining the really intricate, complicated, long, and messy history of conflict in the Palestinian region since the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and why there is so much confusion and distrust and propaganda surrounding it. And so it's one of the books that I feel gave my brain the most rest, because it gave me a way to navigate through the propaganda around Israel and Palestine. Because once you read the book, it gives you a good sense of when someone's speaking on some bullshit or trying to rewrite the history of what has actually gone on in that region. So an absolutely huge recommendation on my part of this book. Next book, I read Everyone Who Is Gone Is Here, which is, the tagline is The United States, Central America, and the Making of a Crisis. It really details the history of Homeland Security, ICE, which is an offshoot of Homeland Security, but really the history of foreign policy with Central America and the U.S., and how a lot of the refugee crisis that has become such a big talking point, particularly in the past 3 elections, but probably just throughout the history of the United States, how a lot of these crises a lot of these unstable governments and a lot of these refugees fleeing these countries come directly from the United States involvement in a lot of these countries' regimes, because America wanting to stop the spread of socialism, or whatever excuses they give. Because I mean, you saw Trump, he just walked in and said, hey, we want Venezuela's oil, let's just be real. And so, you know, as someone coming in the aftermath, who knows how real half of the excuses they gave was. But a lot of the refugee crisis is a result of America's direct involvement in a lot of these countries, and tying it back into Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis, how much money there is in the private prisons, and the immigration detention centers, where a lot of these people get held, that are often owned by private entities that are making money from these individuals. So it's a really good book to kind of give you a sense of why things are the way they are and why they don't get better. And then after all that heaviness, by the end of the year, I was fucking tapped out, because I'm reading these as the world actually continues. And so after that, I read a book called When They Burn the Butterfly, When They Burn the Butterfly, by Wen Yi Lee. And this was a really, really, really fun book. It's exactly what I needed. It's about this, I believe it's set in Saigon, but it's about this young teenager who goes to like this prep school, and one day she returns home to find that her mom burned alive, and that the person that she suspects is connected to it is this gang of girls. They're a street gang, and they worship a fire god called Lady Butterfly. And she realizes that her mom used to run this gang, and so she gets into like this gang world, and she's essentially trying to figure out who she is, find out her identity, while dealing with the trauma of losing her mom, and then also figuring out what is important for her in this new gritty world. It is an absolutely fun book. If you liked The Poppy War and you liked Ren's Give No Fucks attitude, this book is for you. If you read Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and you liked Tally, was that her name? If you liked her absolutely give no fucks attitude, this book is for you. It is an adult book. It gets way more gritty than, well, it's less gritty than Poppy War, more gritty than Cruel Prince, but it's a absolute great read, one of my favorite fun reads of the year. And then I ended it off with The Rag Picker King by Cassandra Clare. This is the sequel to her Swordcatcher book. I'm someone who I grew up reading the Mortal Instruments series, the Infernal Devices series. I read 2 of the 3 of the whatever the Queen of Air and Darkness book is part of, Lady Midnight and all that. I read the first 2. I did not finish Queen of Air and Darkness. But I was very excited to see Cassandra Clare dip her toe into adult fantasy, because honestly, a lot of those YA books felt kind of adult in spaces. It felt like she was trying to make that change for a while. She was probably looking over at Sarah J. Maas getting all this money, and she was like, okay, we cannot let this keep going. And to be fair, as someone that read the first 3, actually the first 4 of ACOTAR and all of Throne of Glass, which, as someone that works in a bookstore, we classify Throne of Glass series as adult romance. When I was a high schooler, it was classified as high school romance, and we all know it's because of Empire of Storms and that weird beach sex scene that happens. I'm digressing, but my point is, I think that this series is way better than ACOTAR. And I don't feel good weighing it against Throne of Glass, because I still consider Throne of Glass a YA series. Just because she stuck a couple sex scenes later does not change the essence of the series. It's a YA series. But all of that to say that the first book, Swordcatcher, so full of ambiance and vibes, it did not execute, or it didn't complete execution on plot or characters for me, because there's so many different characters and you hop around so much that as soon as things started getting good, it felt like the book ended. Ragpicker King felt like I finally got some closure about some of the questions I had, even though there are way more questions now at the end of the second book. I think that this is a really great start to the series. I don't know if it's a trilogy, but if it is, I think that this second book capitalized off of where it left in the first book. And so if you're looking for some high fantasy, that's just some fun high fantasy with a vibe, I recommend it. There are some real world parallels culture wise, and because of that I am a little hesitant about where the story is going. I'm curious. We'll see where it goes, but we'll see where Cassandra Clare is going with this. But plot and vibes wise, I would say that she knocked this book out the park, and the romances have developed way more, and I love what's happening. And so it was a good conclusion to my reading year, especially one with so little fun reading. It was quite a fun read, and I would be done here, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned some honorable mentions, because these aren't on my Goodreads, but these are some books that I have been engaging with in 2025 and continue to engage with, and I just think it's significant because they are part of my reading journey this past year in a significant way. One of these is more recent. It's the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. It is a book that essentially has a bunch of niche words that explain certain human sensations and emotions that are a little more that are very specific. And just as an example, let me just open up to a random page that actually has something. Here we go. Wild red is an adjective feeling the haunting solitude of extremely remote places, a clearing in a forest, a wind-swept field of snow, a rest area in the middle of nowhere, which makes you feel like you've just intruded on a conversation that had nothing to do with you, where even the gravel beneath your feet and the trees overhead are holding themselves back to a pointed, inhospitable silence. So it's not only a dictionary of really specific words, but as you can see, the words are explained in a poetic form that really gives a emotional tinge to a lot of the words. It's almost a book of poetry in that way, because it gets your mind ruminating on the definitions of these words and what they could mean for yourself in your own life. Next book is Heaven Looks Like Us. It is a book of Palestinian poetry. For me, this book kind of really marked what the societal function of literature is. It's a compendium, it's a collection of, it's an anthology of Palestinian poetry, and it has such a resilient spirit in a land that is in the process and has been in the process of being erased. When you talk about the history of Palestine, a lot of major legislation actively disregards Palestinians as a people. They consider it a fabrication. And so this is a book of poetry that reinstills the reality of existence, and it maintains so many cultural markers and ideas and values and qualities and elements of Palestinian life, and it also carries just a very adamant spirit of resistance despite all that is happening and has happened to the Palestinian people. As far as poetry goes, I tried to expand my bounds this year. I read in Soil. They have a decent amount of poetry. I got a Gwendolyn Brooks poetry book this year. I got an Audre Lorde poetry book this year. I got a Rumi poetry book this year. This one was the most prescient, the most immediate poetry book that I could feel. Gwendolyn Brooks poetry book had a lot of poetry that I could relate to, but kind of felt a little distance. This book feels like right now. It feels immediate. It feels urgent. Yeah, I think it's a really impactful book. And I plan to finish it this year at some point. And then lastly, Black Liturgies by Cole Arthur Riley. I might have also mentioned this one when I did my Unk in Training video. But it's essentially a book of non-denominational prayers, essays, affirmations for maintaining yourself through a lot of the struggles that Black people experience. It's not only for Black people, because if you're struggling with like your sense of hope, your sense of artistry, your sense of faith, this book would help with all that. But it is all approached from a very Black lens, and so I highly recommend it if you're Black. But if not, I would just read through it, and you might be able to pull something for yourself, because it is really about the realities of the world, and so it just approaches life from a Black reality. But that's the starting point, not the end point. And with that is my past year in books. And this year I thought about creating a list for what I would be planning to read, but honestly I still don't know. I'm still in a very in-between place. I'm still working on all these essays. Speaking of which, like I said, the Hanif Abdurraqib book got me writing essays, and so I'm finally getting to a place where I'm preparing to start releasing these essays. I want to experiment with different types of media and stuff, so we'll see. Some fun things should be coming down the pipeline, but I will leave it here. I need to start getting ready for my day, actually. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.